Hello, dear student. How are you all? I hope you all are fine. All right, my name is Sweetie Gupta, and today we are going to deal with a very interesting topic in biology, ICSE grade 7. So, yes, the topic is nervous system. So, let's get started. All right, suppose you are hungry and you are served food. What do? You take the spoon or fork in your hand, you grab the food and you take it in your mouth. Next, you love to play cricket, all right? When you play cricket, what is there? You focus on the ball that is given to you and you just give a bat to it. All right. Now, in this picture, an adult man, is running out of fear because the bull is behind him, bull is chasing him. So, the extra strength he is bringing to his legs. All right. See, in all these pictures, there is one thing very, very common. What? All the activities are performed in the sequential manner. All right, different parts of our body, different organs of our body involved in the sequential manner to bring about a word called the coordination, right? So these the different organs are interconnected, these activities are interconnected, and this interlinkage of the activities give us the coordination. All right, so coordination is the working together of the various organs of the body of an organism in a proper manner to produce appropriate reaction to any stimuli. So when the girl was hungry and the food was kept in front of her, just she picked the spoon or fork in her hand. Grabbing the food means bringing her hand to the food, and then the bringing her hand with the food towards the mouth. Now the jaw muscle, now chew it. All right. So the series of the response, the series of the activities that is performed by our body. All right. So this is called coordination. That is coordination where the various organs work together. All right, work together in the sequential manner so that appropriate reaction or appropriate response can be generated to a stimulus. Okay, now before we go to the next slide, if I ask you what is stimulus? All right. Stimulus is any change in the environment that we see and that triggers any functional reaction. All right. For example, when you touch any hot object, what do? You just withdraw your hand from the hot object. So hot object act as a stimulus to you, and the withdrawing of the hand from the stimulus you get because of the response that is generated in the body. All right. So there are two types of coordination, the nervous coordination and the chemical coordination. Now, nervous coordination, as the name itself it is given, nervous means everything related to the spinal cord, the nerves, and the sense organ, the neurons. All right, so nervous coordination are brought about by the nervous system, and chemical coordination. Chemical coordination, as the name itself suggests, it is brought about by the chemical messenger. Chemical messenger means the hormones that is released into the bloodstream. Hormones, where the hormones is coming, it is coming from the endocrine glands that is situated again in the brain, but here the brain is not involved, here the hormones is involved. For example, in the third picture that you saw, the adult man was running, he was running out of fear, and when he was running out of fear, some of the chemicals were released into the bloodstream, and that chemical helps the man to run very fast. Why? Because it gives extra strength, extra stamina to the legs of the and the that boy, and so that he could run fast in order to escape or avoid any danger. All right, so this is all about chemical coordination. Now, when we talk about nervous system, now what is so special about nervous system? Yes, there is something special. It consists of the special cells called the nerve cells or the neurons. Now, as you know, neuron, if I tell you one interesting fact, neuron is the longest cell of the human body. It is the longest cell. All right, just keep in mind, it is the longest cell. Now, it is made up of two main parts, the main cell body called the cyton and the long process called the axon. Cyton gives out the number of the fine processes called the dendrites, and This dendrite is nothing but the extension of the cyton, the cytoplasmic cyton. If I show you the picture of the neuron, so here the neuron is structural and functional unit of nervous system. Remember, this is the longest cell of the human body. It can stretch I guess it can stretch to get the response properly. All right, so here cyton and neuron consists of the two main parts, the cyton and the axon, the cyton and the axon. Cyton having the nucleus and the dendrites. Dendrites are nothing but the cytoplasmic extension. Okay, cytoplasmic extension. Now one of the long process runs very long and forms the axon. Now axon that you see, it is very long and it has the protective sheath that is called the myelin sheath. It has the protective sheath that is called the myelin. The term, it is not written here. No, it is myelin sheath. Okay, so here and some nodes of Ranvier which is also present here. Nodes of Ranvier, see here, and it is devoid of myelin sheath. Here it is present in the axon. All right, axon now ends into the terminal branches, and this terminal branches now end up in a muscle or the effector organ, so that the response is generated here. Any messages, any impulses that is transmitted. Now the impulse that is getting from the stimuli. All right, stimulus, it is there in the environment, and now the receptor which are there in the under the skin receives the stimulus or the messages, transmit it through the dendrite, passes down to the axon, and then to the terminal branches, and then to the finally effector muscle. So this is how the general picture of the transmission or transduction of the impulses from the outer environment to the inner environment. Inner environment, when I talk about, means the inside of our brain and the spinal cord. Now if I talk about, if I make you learn more the detail about neuron, the cell body contains nucleus. Dendrites are the cytoplasmic extension of the cell body. They receive messages from the organs and transmit them into the axon to the another neuron. I'll let you know how. The end of the axon terminates in a number of the branches called the terminal branches. The terminal branches of one neuron lie very close to the dendrites of the another neuron. This point of contact is called synapse. Now synapse, it is very important here. Why it is very important, I'll let you know. So synapse, it is a small gap that is present between the two neuron. All right, when the messages is getting, when the impulse is getting transferred from transducted from one neuron to the another neuron, there is a small gap it has to pass through, and that gap is filled with the neurotransmitter. All right, that fluid, we call it neurotransmitter, and that neurotransmitter helps the passing or transducting the messages from one neuron to the another neuron. Now I'll let you know one of the interesting fact this about this synaptic transmission. Just a few minutes from here. Messages are relayed from one neuron to the another like this. All right, when we talk about synaptic transmission, now the interesting fact, so, everywhere in like when you are driving, it is written, do not drink and drive, do not drink and drive. What it is, what does it mean? How does it scientifically, or when we are like logically, when we see, what does it mean? Why it is written? So when the logical things comes here, see, this is a synaptic gap, okay, that is present between the two neuron. So this is the axon terminal, all right, and this is the dendrite of the another neuron, and in between both of these there is a synaptic gap. Synaptic gap is filled with the neurotransmitter fluid. All right, so these are neurotransmitter fluid that helps in the transduction of the nerve impulse from the axon terminal of one nerve to the dendrites of the another nerve. Now suppose if this neurotransmitter is disrupted by the chemical substituents of some other beverages, suppose if I particularly say about the alcohol, all right, so some of the constituents of the alcohol just lie here, disrupts the neurotransmitter fluid, and hence the impulses that is passing from one neuron to the another neuron gets delayed. That is how that is why it is said, or it is said always that do not drink and drive. Why? Because when you see something, it is there in front of you. For example, if the divider is there, if any tree is there, if any bridge is there, yes, of course, the messages is getting transferred into the internal environment, but the delaying of the messages happens because the substituents of the alcoholic particles lie and sit here and helps in the delaying of the messages, and hence the nerve impulse transduction becomes delayed. All right, so this is the synaptic gap importance, how much it is important, you just see. So this is all about synaptic transmission. Now we'll come to the types of the neuron. So the neurons are three types. All right, sensory neurons, motor neuron, and association neuron. Association neuron also called as interneuron. All right, association neuron also called as interneuron. Now sensory neuron, what does it do? Sensory neuron means the neurons, the nerve cells, all right, that carry the impulses from the sensory organ. Now what is this sensory organ? Since our childhood we are studying there are five sense organ. So what are they? Five sense organ, just come and repeat with me: ears, eyes, tongue, nose, and skin. All right, so these five sense organ, the impulses are being taken by the sensory neuron to the spinal cord and the brain. Now motor neuron, what does it do? Since once the impulses or the messages transducted to the brain, now brain will respond in return, right? So it carries the impulses from the brain or the spinal cord to the effector muscle. All right, now association that lie in the spinal cord, or it transmit the impulses from the one neuron to the another. It lie between the sensory and the motor neuron also. Now see here the association of the three types of the neuron. See here, any stimuli that is kept in the outer environment. Now the receptor in your hand touches it, get the prick of it. Now it sends the as soon as it get the prick, it sends the messages to the sensory organ. All right, sensory neuron, and then sensory neuron passes the message to the interneuron, and then the interneuron again helps in the transduction of the message to the brain, to the spinal cord, and then it respond by sending the response back through the motor neuron to withdraw the hand from that particular stimuli. All right, withdrawing of the hand from that particular stimuli. So this is how the neurons, the three neurons, sensory, interneuron, and motor neuron, work together. Okay, now uh, we come to the next part, which is also very important. Now we learned about neurons. All right, neurons, we learned about a single cell. Now here I'm just giving you the idea of multiple cells, means many of the cells when comes together, when we bundle it, what do we get? We get the nerve. So nerve is a bundle of axons or nerve fiber that is enclosed in a tubular medullary sheath. Now this is the tubular medullary sheath, the outer covering that you see here. Okay, the outer covering, tubular medullary sheath, the outer covering that you see here, we call it medullary sheath, that helps in the intermixing of the impulses or the messages that is arising from one neuron to the another. So a nerve is a bundle of nerve fiber. The nerve fiber is made up of axons of the neurons. Now very clearly it is given here, the nerve Nerves are the bundle of the neurons or the axons. See here, axons are lying and it is enclosed in a sheath, medullary sheath. So this is the bundle of the neurons. All right, see here, motor neuron, sensory neuron, everything is bundled together in the medullary sheath and comprising of the nerve. Now, again, in this picture also, axons that you see here, axons that coming from the different neurons, and these are bundled in a medullary sheath, calling it nerve. All right, calling it nerve. Now there are three kinds of nerves. So what are the three kinds of nerve? Now here, do not get confused with the neuron and nerve. Neuron is the single cell that I am talking about. Single cell, and nerve is the bundle of the neurons. All right, bundle of the axons. So we have sensory nerve, motor nerve, and mixed nerve. Sensory nerve contains only the sensory neuron. All right, sensory nerve contains only the sensory neurons. All right, motor nerve contains only the motor neuron, and mixed nerve carries the both sensory as well as motor neuron. So the nerve where you saw in the last slide, that was the mixed nerve, where it consists of sensory neuron also and motor neuron also. But we have another sensory nerve that consists of only sensory neuron. We have another motor nerve that consists only of the motor neurons. So when we talk about the example of the sensory nerve, we have optic nerve of the eye. Optic nerve of the eye. Eye is the sensory organ here, and the optic nerve that arises from the eye and goes to the brain. Okay, so motor nerve contains only the motor neuron, the nerves of the muscle. Now here, muscle of the eyeball. All right, mixed nerve that goes to your tongue. Okay, now coming to the broader part of the nervous system, that is the human nervous system. All right, so we got the idea of the nerves. All right, we got the idea of the neurons. All right, we got the idea of coordination. So all of these are controlled by the nervous system, which is divided into the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Now, central nervous system, when I particularly say central nervous system, lie in the mid dorsal part of the body. It consists of brain, it consists of spinal cord. Only the two part that comes under central nervous system. Now, peripheral nervous system, the nerves that are arising from the brain and the spinal cord. Peripheral means periphery towards the periphery means away from the center. All right, so away from the center, that the nerves are going to each and every part of the body, each and every means each and every periphery of the body, the nerves, these nerves are coming under the peripheral nervous system. Okay, now difference between the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So central nervous system, where it includes the brain and the spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system, it includes the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves, means the nerves arising from the brain and the spinal cord. Now it is situated in the mid dorsal axis of the body. It is spread in the peripheral region, each part of the organ. It has various center for regulation and coordination of the body's function. Now, peripheral nervous system, what does it do? It regulates systemic system, skeletal muscles, skin and joints. It controls involuntary activities of organs also. Okay, where the central nervous system is involved in the voluntary action, here it is involved in the involuntary action. All right. Okay, so few differences of the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system we came to know. All right, so we'll get more in detail in the next video of this nervous system, which is part 2 of this video. And I request you to come to watch that video. And if you are coming to watch that video, please come with a walnut or the picture of the walnut if you have, and keep it in front of you, because that is going to help and relate to the human brain that that we'll be discussing in the next video. So thank you very much. We'll meet you in the next video.